Yeah, g'day YouTubers. Tinker O'Toole again here with another video. Today we're going to talk about the Stihl USG chart and how to interpret it. So there's two different, let's just say, there's a sharpening chart and there's a maintenance chart. So we're going to deal with the sharpening chart first, then we'll talk about the maintenance, and this is where a lot of the confusion comes from. So before we sort of get into that, when you look at the Stihl USG chart, you'll notice that you've got a left tooth here, which is number 1. Then you've got forward slash, right tooth number 2. And down the bottom, you've got number 3, which refers to the raker. So if we look at the top line, let's slide the ruler up. Now we're talking quarter inch picot chain. So let's slide the ruler up to here. So we find out that we've got to do quarter inch picot, which is 3/8 low profile, or sorry, quarter inch picot, not 3/8 low profile. 40 degrees on the head angle, that's 50 degrees on an Oregon. B scale, so A scale is the head angle, the head that moves, the grinding wheel. The B scale is a sliding vise. It's saying -15 to +15. And the C scale is the scale used for the top plate, setting the top plate angle. And it's saying -30 degrees and +13 degrees. Also over here, this is the grinding wheel. And we'll just move this over slightly that you use. And the grinding wheel for that is 5203 750 7017. So that's what those numbers mean. Then if we slide the ruler down, we've got a second set of numbers. And this is what really confuses a lot of people, and this is what confused me also. You'll notice that it says 40 degrees here, 0 degrees here, and 0 degrees here. These angles are used for the maintenance of the rakers. So what they're telling you is to keep the head at 40 degrees, keep the vise, the sliding vise, at 0. That means it will keep the guide rails of the chain right in the center of the grinding wheel. And when we rotate between left and right teeth on the top plate angle, keep that at 0 degrees. And then you'll notice, because it's a raker wheel, there's a different wheel for a raker, and that is 5203 750 7015. And it actually tells you further in the next column about the different type of wheels to use. So it's, yeah, different angles. This is all about the different sort of wheels to use for the raker and all that there. So that's the wheel information there. So if you're to look at all the other angles, you'll see the same thing. You'll see over in this column here where the grinding wheel is, they're the different wheels for the different type chains. And if we go down, so if we look over in this column here, it doesn't turn around and tell you whether it's full chisel or semi-chisel. It just lists the pitch, PMN chain, so 38404 PMX chain. But you'll notice in this column here, it's all +40, and it's 40 degrees here also for the head angle to do the rakers. It continues all the way down until you see the double lines, and then we get into the tungsten carbide. I think that's a rescue chain, one of them, and RH, which is rapid hexa. Same thing on the rapid hexa. You've got 25 degrees on the head to sharpen it, left and right tooth. Then you've got 25 degrees on the actual top plate angle there. And then on here, there is no, you got 0 degrees here, so there's no tilt. Now, for those that may be still getting a little bit confused, how about we go over to the Stihl USG Grinder and we'll explain that again. So, for sharpening purposes, if we look at column A and we're looking for 1/4 inch picot, we've got 40 degrees on the wheel. We've got -15 and +15 on the sliding vise. So they're recommending, whether it's full chisel or semi-chisel, they're saying that we use 15 positive and 15 negative on the vise, whether that's full. So that's interesting what Stihl do there. So on the C scale, we're going to use this for 25 degrees for full chisel and 30 degrees for semi-chisel. You can use 30 degrees for full chisel, but in much softer wood. So that's the 3 scales. A scale, which is a tilting head, the vice scale, and the C scale, which gives the angles of the tooth. So now, because we're going to read the information in the square on the bottom line, that's the maintenance for the rakers. And that's pretty simple, because it states that we use a 40-degree angle using the correct grinding wheel. And if you look at the raker grinding wheel against each chain, there's a few different grinding wheels there, and there's a number beside that. So we've got our 40 degrees. The next thing that we adjust is the sliding vise. Sliding vise sits on 0 degrees, so we need to sit that on 0 degrees, and that's just a matter of putting that on 0. Because what we want to do on 0 degrees is we want to keep the guide rails in dead line with the actual grinding wheel. So what we will do is just lift that grinding wheel into position so that we can show you how that works. So if we have a vertical line directly above the guide rails, you'll notice that what we're trying to achieve here is to be right in the middle of that grinding wheel, so that there's no offset grinding. Because when we go 15 degrees, we're moving 15 degrees away from the rail, and this moves positive 15, or not 15 degrees, 15 millimeters away from the rail. So that's what we're doing with the sliding vise. So if the chain is on here, we're facing the front of the chain. In this situation, this is the left side. This becomes the right side. So what we do for this side is push the vise that way. And for the tooth that's on this side, we push the chain that way. Then we go from the back, and it's the opposite. So the chain, the tooth on this side now becomes the right, and we push it that way, and this becomes the one on the left, and we push it that way. Now, the USG manual tells you positive and negative 15. If you have a look at it, we'll just zoom back. We zoomed too much then. So it tells you about the different positive and the negatives. And that's all you've got to remember, that you're grinding. It's called offset grinding. And offset grinding, and we'll show you on an Oregon, when you tilt on an Oregon, the vise tilts that way or the vise tilts that way. And that's what's referred to as offset grinding. This has a movable vise. It's still offset grinding. It's just a different way of achieving that. So it doesn't matter whether you're facing this way or whether you're at the other side. The moment that you've got, all you've got to remember is that you've got to move away from the center line. So the teeth that are on this side will move that way, and the teeth that are on that side move that way. And we can actually show you, really demonstrate that really well on here. And we'll just sort of bring this down. I just want to show you this setup here, and you'll really appreciate what I'm saying. Now that ruler that you can see is sitting in the vise, clamped in the vise there. And you'll notice that when we bring the grinding wheel down, it's right in the middle. So when we do a 10 degrees downward tilt, it's a little bit different on a Oregon 511 type grinder. We've got this adjusting knob down the bottom and we loosen it. Now there was a jingle that if you want to do the right hand cutters and viewing the right hand cutters from the back, the right hand cutters are on this side. And the jingle said if you want to do the right hand cutters, push the knob away, so it was right away. But you'll notice the first thing that happened, that the ruler went from being vertical and tilted to that direction. And if we go back to vertical there and we go to do the left hand cutters, it'll tilt to the other way. So that's offset cutting. That was the tiltable vices before they brought in the sliding vices, and the sliding vices achieve the same thing. You need to move away from the center line. It's as simple as that. So yeah, sometimes in the literature it'll tell you about the right or the left cutter. All you've got to remember is that the tooth has to move away from the middle of the grinding wheel, and you won't make a mistake. And that's the mistake a lot of people make. Don't push the tooth this way into the grinding wheel, because you'll go past the center line, and that's not offset grinding. So back to the USG chart, just to briefly recap again. Hopefully this is going to help a lot of people. I've got to thank really two people that sort of pushed me in the right direction. A guy called Tom from Crossville, Tennessee in America. He gave me some good information on the Stihl USG chart. And I've got to thank my friend Stoney in Australia from King Lake. He pushed me in the right direction as well. So thanks to you two guys. And hopefully anyone watching this video, please pass it on or link it or do anything, because nothing worse than trying to learn how to sharpen a chainsaw, or you get a grinder and you're doing it all wrong. So just to briefly recap for those people, again, that you've got three numbers here: left cutter, right cutter, raker. So you've got number 1 / number 2, number 3 is a raker. So number 1 and 2 refers to the top line, and follow the top line along with your finger, and there's the grinding wheel for it. There's some other grinding information as well. That's about the raker, the type of wheel that you need. And the bottom line is for maintenance of the raker. You'll see that it's number 3, and there is the number 3 there, and it's this bottom line here, and there is the raker grinding wheel there. And that's about it. So with that information, all you've got to remember that in each square that you see in each square here, when you're sharpening, just follow the top line, and when you're doing the rakers, follow the bottom line for those angles, and you'll have nothing to worry about and everything will be fine. Thanks for watching. Give us a thumbs up. Bye for now.